Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of Dual Universe Explorers. For those of you who are new here, either watching out there on Twitch or on YouTube, Dual Universe Explorers is composed of a group of fans that came together from the Dual Universe forums to discuss the latest news about the game every week. We talk about everything from the news shared on NovaQuark's social media pages to hypothetical mechanics. Most especially, we muse about what we want out of the game and let our imaginations run wild with the possibilities. Of course, with that being said, we want to remind everyone that the opinions expressed on this show are our own, and we are in no way affiliated with the NovaQuark or anyone employed by NovaQuark. And with that, let's have some introductions here. Who we got here today?
This is Wilkes Chekhov, as usual.
This is Mex here today, joining you guys for the first time.
Hello, Mex.
Hello, Mex. This is Yamamushi.
And I'm your host, Wardian, resident space wizard. So, what are we covering today?
Well, I had some questions on what the deal is with Dual Universe now that Kickstarter is there. I know that the Kickstarter funded. I know that they had announced some new stuff and plans for the game, but I have some questions about that.
Yes. We're trying a little something new today. We're going to have somebody who actually doesn't know much about the game ask their questions, and then we're going to try and help answer them.
Yeah, just a little bit of a different format. Hey, Mex, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Awesome. He was having some audio issues before. So, yeah, I guess the big news this week is, Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Yes. First off, the Kickstarter. We have made the initial goal.
500,000 euros. And
I think they're like 531,000 something euros right now.
530,000.
Let us just hope we hit 600,000.
I would like to hit 600,000. I would like them to raise that much. But on the other side, it doesn't ultimately matter if they reach 600,000, because now that we've reached the 500,000, Kickstarter won't let it go below 500K. So, I mean, it's funded. So, the hard part is done.
Yeah, it's just reaching the initial goal makes it so all the investors are willing to put their money in now.
Also, it's pretty amazing. I mean, think about it. 7,500 people raised almost 600,000 US dollars for them so far. That's a lot of money.
That is. It sounds like it's going to go to good use, because this game sounds amazing.
I know I can breathe a sigh of relief with them at least getting that now.
I remember I was sitting on my phone there when there was it was less than 1,000 euros left to go, and I was refreshing on my phone constantly. And when I saw it drop under 300 euros left to go, I immediately went and boosted my Emerald pledge to push it over.
Yeah, I already played a song for you on that accord. Thank you for doing that.
I don't know if I was the one that did it, because, there was some latency in the whole checkout thing, but I will say that I did pledge there in the last couple of seconds. Fun stuff. Well, they, I guess to celebrate the reaching 500,000, they also released some new videos.
They did. 2 of them, I believe.
What were they about?
Well, let's see. I'll throw one up here on the stream. The first one of these videos I'm going to play is from, I think it's update number 20, I believe. Yeah, I think it's update number 20. Or maybe it was update number 19. Regardless, came out this week. This video is them building a ship together. This is supposed to show what it's like having multiple people work on one ship. Albeit it's a small ship, etc., etc. I'll just go ahead and start the video up. if you guys are watching Twitch, we also have some viewers in Twitch today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Was it? I think I see, what, 13 people?
13. That is a bit of a record for Sunday, so thank you. I do honestly mean that.
And you know,
So that was the first video. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it up here on loop, just so you guys can do some commentary on it. So when they published this, of course, I know some people are probably watching this going, man, I want to see what that base looks like inside. And I will say that that is the next video that we're going to play, because that was the next video that was published, is actually them building underground. But for the focus of this video, what was the developer's name? Whose base is this? Francisco?
I think so. Hold on, let me check real quick.
I
think it was the latest one.
Vincent.
Vincent, that's it.
Not Francisco at all. Vincent. So yeah, this is Vincent's secret base.
It's a very nice base.
It is. It's beautiful looking. They're doing a really good job at making it integrate well with the environment here.
And I mean, some people were kind of, granted, there was a lot of debate that went up when this video was published, mainly because people were upset at the quality of the video. I don't really know what all the gripes were about. I mean, whatever.
I think somebody said that they could have made the video look really good, and then that's what they should have put out beforehand.
Nah, I mean, this to me just seems like it's developers having fun, like playing with what they've built, and it shows that the system works. Granted, the ship is not like symmetrical. Maybe that's what one of the gripes was. I don't know. I still like it because it's
that was one of the gripes.
It's showing like the different ground layers. You can see that there's a rock and there's like dirt underneath that first layer of rock.
I was actually going to mention that myself. It's you can see different layers of sediment and such, so it looks more like a real world. And the fact that he's dug into this land and created his own little landing pad, it's kind of nice.
It kind of looks like something we've definitely done in Minecraft while playing, or I should say it is beautiful. I love this base. I would not have chosen a different base to showcase.
I mean, it shows like it's out in the middle of nowhere. Kind of something I think a lot of people are going for is like, having something secluded that's out hidden.
Having a Yavin 4 moon base.
Yeah. I mean, it shows like underground building. There's clearly the ability to do that. I like the environment, like the forest, because we've seen screenshots of this forest before with like all these nice looking trees. And the frame rate doesn't seem horrible.
It seems a lot better than the last couple of videos I saw, which were probably some of the early on videos of when they actually started releasing.
Oh yeah. You actually saw the game with me. Mex went with me to PAX, so he's actually one of the few people who's had his hands on the game.
I am envious.
And I mean, even from what I've seen at PAX, like, I don't know, I think this is way cooler than what I saw at PAX. Not that the tech demo wasn't nice, but more of, like, I don't know.
You didn't have multiple people in there collaborating on a project like this.
Yeah, you didn't have
really
multiple people working on something.
The game flows and how ideally it's supposed to be played, with friends.
You can definitely tell there's like, this wasn't just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like this was thrown together only for this video. This seems like something that they actually went out there and spent time building and were having fun with it.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and throw up the other video. The next video is somewhat long, or I don't know. I felt it was long, but that's also because it's played 3 times as fast, so it's in triple speed mode.
Have we been told how long it's going to take to mine through and build our bases? And
well, if you watch this video, that's exactly what this video is covering. So this video here is about underground base building. And you can see the amount of crazy detail and like time that he spends just building this thing.
Oh yeah. God, that is such a beautiful selection system.
Now, they pointed out that these lights here in the room, like, you can see there's lights in the hallways. Those aren't actually powered by an electric grid. Those are actually, like, fluorescent blocks. And it's an idea that they're toying around with, apparently, as a way to, like, give people more use for their energy. I think that's what they said.
All right.
I mean, you see that type of thing in like real sailing ships as well. They'll have like fluorescent strips along the corridors and such, so
Yeah.
you're not immediately, left in the dark if the power goes out.
I like it. Maybe if the material isn't something you can gather so much as something you have to craft, it could be somewhat valuable. I imagine there's going to be a high demand for fluorescent things.
Yeah, 'cause
What I would like to see is the ability to have multiple colors, like green fluorescent or red fluorescent.
yeah, I would love to have a command mode in my base. Just have the red lights going and glowing throughout the entire base.
Or like a red alert system.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the middle of a battle and the lights turn red just so all your crew members know what's going on.
Have they talked about yet?
About what?
I'm sorry, you cut out on that one.
Oh, have they talked about any of the battle mechanics yet?
So, a bit. That also plays into the 600,000 euro goal. So if they reach 600,000 euros, the stretch goal is to add construct versus construct combat. And they talked a little bit about how that would work. Regardless, we know construct versus construct combat is coming. It's just a matter of prioritizing it, like how they're going to prioritize it. So even if they don't reach the stretch goal, it doesn't mean that there won't ever be ship versus ship combat. It just might mean that we're going to see it at a later point in the game versus at release.
Okay.
Now, ship versus ship combat, they talked about how there's going to be a lock-on mechanic. And correct me if I misunderstood any of this, guys, but from what I understand, you'll be able to like sit in the gunner seat, like kind of think of like Star Wars when they're in the Millennium Falcon and he's like, swirling around on the gun trying to shoot TIE fighters. It'll kind of look like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
And from
Yes,
a first-person
that is
perspective,
idea.
and
So-
basically wherever the target reticule is pointing, when it as it aims over a ship, it will lock on, and it'll be a lock and fire system. So it locks as you look at it, and then fires. And then where the damage is located is based on where the target reticule was aiming when the shot was fired. So if you were aiming at the front of the ship, perhaps it'll do damage there. There's also the way that damage is spread out, which will be, I think there will be a sphere of influence, and then damage will be spread out throughout that sphere. And then based on that, you can also kind of, in a way, target where you're going to do damage. So like you might choose to take out their radar dishes, or take out their weapons, or maybe even knock one of their engines offline or something, just based on where you're aiming your shots. Now it won't be like a Twitch-based system, and that the amount of damage that you do and the I guess the percent chance that you're actually going to land that hit depends on your skills, and then also the ammo type. So there's a lot of different mechanics that go into how much damage you're actually doing. and perhaps different weapons will be more effective against different armor or shield types.
With that being said, they also said like different weapons will have different lock-on times. So in many respects, like if you're playing like I imagine a fighter type ship, something small, the lock-on times are going to be very short. It's going to feel a lot like a Twitch shooter in those types of cases, or even in the Avatar versus Avatar combat. Your personal character, if you're fighting somebody else, the lock-on times are supposed to be next to the nil, so you'll be able to sit there and aim and shoot at somebody without having to really worry about having to keep the lock-on target. I mean, your targeting reticle over the opponent for very long.
Right.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I've seen other games do this. Some of them are just a lot of people call it like tab targeting or reticle targeting or something along those lines. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. It's just instead of actually hitting the button tab and then targeting somebody, you're actually bringing the reticle, and that's how you select the target.
Combat system sounds phenomenal. I really hope that we make that 600,000 euro goal, stretch goal.
Now, on the other hand, we're not all going to be flying vehicles anytime soon, so it's not like we'll be missing out on combat. It's just that it will be not a letdown. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for here? Like, we're going to be feeling like we're missing something when we do get ships, and that's the one thing that's missing is the ability to destroy other ships. They did say that you'll be able to shoot at other ships, like, so there's nothing that would stop you from sitting and like shooting at somebody's ship on the ground with your gun. But if you wanted to attack, say, a battleship, it might take a very long time.
I certainly hope it takes a long time.
Well, it's supposed to be like months before we get the ability to actually build a battleship even, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. It just depends on how they prioritize combat and what they're able to do.
Well, the months that you're talking about there is actually more along the lines of how the game's mechanics work for, like, researching, being able to build certain things, for instance.
Okay.
Whereas in building an actual construct, yeah, I could take all those parts and technically make something the size of a battleship. It doesn't mean it's going to be an effective ship in that regard.
Okay, I'd be understanding that just to be able to like build the first ships that was going to take a very long time, which I'm very enthusiastic about, because if you were to, even if we had like the technology now to build interstellar ship, it would take a very long time to construct that, just like it does for our warships now that float in the sea.
Oh yeah,
well,
years to build.
I suppose it would also depend on like how many people you have working on something at once. I mean, if you're going to be the only guy building a battleship, yeah, I think it'll take you a while. Period. Not just construction, but also all the things that you have to learn. Whereas in, a group of 50 guys all coordinating together, you research this so you can build this, you research this so you can build this part. It's going to take teamwork.
It depends on the market too. If people are actually using the markets and are selling, buying, and trading things, then it might not be such a huge issue to be in a small group of 10 people all working on something, as opposed to a group of 100 people or whatever. But if nobody is using the markets, then the only people who are able to succeed are the ones who are in large groups. So I really don't think it'll work like that. I think that people will end up using the markets because they want money, and there's certainly going to be people out there who want the money to buy DAX, etc.
Very true. And also keep in mind that, yes, they're trying to make it so there is some type of difficulty, some depth to the building aspect, but they're not trying to make reality simulator. They're not going to make it truly so it's going to take you a year to build this ship, because that would be realistic.
Yeah.
No, but it will take a couple of, if not months, it will take weeks before anybody who starts on day one is able to get into space.
How are we going to be storing our items that we mine or buy or want to sell? So I heard that there's like a couple of different theories on how that was going to work.
So there's storage containers.
Okay, and then like so if you buy materials from a player, do you just get them automatically? Are they just magically in your inventory, or do you have to go to like their storefront or a trading terminal of some sort?
That's a really good question, and one we don't have a completely accurate answer for yet. Reply hazy. Ask again later.
So everything in the game takes up physical space. So if you were to have a market and you wanted to sell like dirt or iron in the market, you would need storage containers there to actually hold that iron. And then if you were to buy that iron, you'd have to actually go there and retrieve it from the storage container, or have someone ship the container to you. And the same thing with ships. So you can kind of imagine like if a market is a big shipping market, or a market that sells battleships or just is a shipyard, there will actually be lots of battleships sitting around waiting for somebody to buy them or waiting for them to be shipped somewhere, as opposed to them just like magically, teleporting to you.
Okay.
So everything in the game will take like real time to transport.
The only aspect that they haven't been completely clear on, which would make a huge difference, is whether or not there is some type of compression that goes along with just like materials. I mean, the way they've talked about it is, your character yourself can carry a large amount of materials on him through whatever miracle science gadgetry he's using to build things. Whether or not that stays true with storage containers, like, for instance, if I drop a section of dirt, is it the same volume inside the storage container? I don't know. It wouldn't make too much sense if it was. On the other hand, it would be realistic, so we don't know where quite they've drawn that line yet.
Okay. And so, since we're also kind of speaking about markets and selling, how does one player secure their inventory to make sure they don't get griefed while they're logged in or logged out or transiting materials? Like, I like the idea of I don't know if this is in game or not, but being able to be a space pirate and go and rob a shipment that's going through. But in the storefront, that's kind of a hard thing for me, because I want also to be able to go rob the storefront, but as being someone that would hold inventories, because I want to build a ship.
From what I understand, they don't know exactly if that's something they'll be able to do, to have markets be able to be robbed. But I think if I understood correctly from that forum post, but I think that if they did allow people to rob markets, if that was a game feature, I think that the markets that were more successful would be in areas that were more heavily defended. I mean, you wouldn't sell anything in an area that could be just stolen by anybody.
True. So then extending that protection or theoretical protection onto shipments, or is that a whole different aspect?
Unknown.
Well, it's unknown, and a lot of it has to do with how the game would wind up developing in certain ways. So, for instance, if you created like one protected zone, like let's say around the Ark ship, and people could trade there without worrying about being assaulted, everybody would go trade there. But at the same time, you'd also have people just waiting right outside there, the safe zone, going, well, anybody coming out of here is going to have a ton of stuff. So this is where we're going to attack them, which seems smart, but at the same time, when you can know where all the pirates are at the exact same time, everybody's going to go there to go get the pirates. So it's a lot. The question and the answer are a lot deeper than can just be said right off the bat.
It all depends on how people choose to play the game.
Description.
The meta, so to speak, that develops is yet to be determined.
All right. I think heard or read a forum post at one point a few weeks ago about them being stealable, and people were not very happy. And a lot of people were on both sides of like, no, we should be able to steal them, and no, we shouldn't be able to steal them.
He's talking about DAX.
Ah, yes. DAX.
So, without getting into that whole discussion again, the way that it was described on the forums is that at first they will not be lootable, but the intention is for in the long term to have it be like an EVE Online type redemption system, so that they would be lootable. But that won't happen at first. So at first it's going to be non-lootable, whatever. But we'll see how it plays out over time. Granted, there are people that are very passionate on both sides of the issue.
Yeah. So for the Kickstarter backers that get DAX,
the intention for those are not to be lootable, because that's how you're going to be paying for your subscription for in the beginning. It's going to be really crappy if a bunch of people. I understand the desire to rob somebody of their DAX, and if somebody is not smart enough to put them away and just carry them carry them on themselves all the time, then yeah, you deserve to get robbed. But at the same time, you're trying to draw an initial audience here, and nobody's going to be able to really pay for these things if somebody's just robbing everybody else of them.
Well, like I said, from the forum post, it seems like the intention is to go EVE Online, like the EVE Online system, but that won't happen at first. And a lot of it has to do with the development time it would take to implement a redemption system like EVE. So, not going to happen at first, but will eventually maybe happen. Who knows?
I have a feeling they didn't make that a stretch goal just because people would look at that and go, what are they talking about? Why is that a stretch goal?
That's not a stretch goal.
Have they shown any new tech demos in the Kickstarter videos besides the two that you've shown here?
Oh yeah, I'll play a couple of them here. I mean, so this video that's playing right now is showing several platforms. This was published on MMORPG.com, but it's showing several platforms flying around. They look like landing pads. They are landing pads, but it shows people walking around on them too. Now, when the video was published, it was just published as MMORPG exclusive, but the video clearly is showing like a whole lot of other stuff going on, like them actually walking around on moving stuff.
That's pretty big in and of itself.
Yeah.
It proves that you can have ships that have multiple people on them all walking around at the same time. Like, that's not an issue.
Right. I mean, other games that are similar to this, Space Engineers for one, has only recently been able to do that, and they've been in development for quite a while.
Another thing, well, I don't know if this was ever answered. What happens when you log out on one of these ships that are moving? Where do you log back in?
That has still not been answered.
So, regardless, I'm sure they're thinking about it. It's something that has to be answered.
Yeah, I'm looking at this video, like, they're not being at this ship speed movement, which is fantastic. Like, I can't say enough about that, even because it's an open platform that they're getting moved on, they're moving on. And that is some brilliant work on Nova Quark's part. So, tell me, what else is new about the game that we haven't talked about since we've seen it at PAX?
Oh, you're gonna have to do that one, Yama. I have no idea what we saw at PAX.
Well, mainly they've been focusing on Kickstarter and just publishing a lot of information about the game, answering a lot of questions that people had. They did a couple of Ask Me Anything events. JC has done quite a few interviews. He even did one yesterday morning with DM21.
I believe that's the person.
Bicycle Walrus is the person who interviewed him. Yeah, that's a hard question because it's. I mean, even though PAX was only a month ago, it seems like it was so very long ago. I mean, we haven't seen combat yet. I'll say what we haven't seen is we haven't seen combat yet. We haven't seen the interior of like one of these battleships. We haven't seen like the crafting process involved in like building an element, so we don't know what that looks like yet. Anyone else?
Like I said, JC is awesome. He's one of the nicest guys I've talked to. And, I just had to say that because he's
genuinely like He's genuinely open about the game, and you can tell he really cares about doing it.
Yeah, that's something I haven't seen in a developer or see like anybody that's talking about a game in no time, and it's refreshing to see.
A couple of articles came out this week, interviews with Novacork, that address the whole No Man's Sky situation, the fact that No Man's Sky is hurting the ability for other games to raise money or to succeed. Like, No Man's Sky put such a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Regardless of your opinion of it, by and far, I would say the majority of people are not happy with No Man's Sky. So that
you can't see it right now, but I'm raising my hand.
that general impression of No
people.
Man's Sky has just hurt the sci-fi games and exploration games, space exploration games, these games that promise procedural generation and all this exploration and yeah, I mean, No Man's Sky is certainly going to put a dampener in any game's ability to raise money, and Dual Universe certainly felt that. I mean, a large amount of the comments on Kickstarter were people that were generally pessimistic about the game, comparing it to No Man's Sky.
Well, what I find interesting is they make a direct comparison to No Man's Sky, as if Dual Universe is just another version of No Man's Sky, and it's not. It's a completely different kind of game.
I mean, the only thing they have in common is that they're in space.
But you could say that about a handful of games that that they got a space in common with No Man's Sky.
I mean, nobody says Space Engineers is like No Man's Sky. Maybe there are people that say that. I don't know.
There are. I consider them somewhat ignorant on the subject, but there are people that say that.
Another piece of news that was released this week. I don't know if it's news so much as just a screenshot, but they released this screenshot of what their concept of the Alpha Team uniform would be.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing. I saw like a video of that. I think
a video. Well, I've only seen the screenshot. There's also a video that was released on character customization.
Ah, yes, maybe that's what I'm confusing it with.
I'll pull it up here in a moment.
Oh, hey, have they said anything about that they are part of some of the Kickstarter or the backer tiers?
What did he just say? I'm sorry.
Have they said anything about the pets that they are including in some of the backer tiers.
Actually, that photo he's about to show is about to show with one of the pets.
I see the pet. That's what reminded me of that, because I really, really like pets in MMORPGs. I don't know why, but just having like in or not Skyrim Online, so that would be fantastic game. But
well, the pets in here so far, the in-game pets, they're all pretty much the same. They have different metallic color schemes, so to speak, as you go up at the higher rank ones they have in game they look different.
but they don't have any like attack value or helping.
Not
No, they're purely cosmetic pets.
Okay. I was a little bit confused because they had level 1 and level 2.
But yeah, it's well, the Alpha Team uniform definitely looks different than the other uniform that's going to be for general use for everybody else.
This is a really nice looking uniform. So is the name card that is part of it that yellow?
The ARC ID card?
Yes.
That is actually a physical object that you're going to get in the mail.
Oh. I thought it was a digital object.
That's actually what caused a lot of confusion for a lot of people. There was this thought going around that DAX were going to be like physical cards that you would just type, like they would have a code on the back and you type it in, just kind of like those pay cards that you get for other MMOs.
Yeah.
But that is not the case. There are a few items that are physical items. They include things like the ID card for the ARC ships, things like T-shirts. There's a statue. There's a metal tin for people that have a very high pledge. They can get like a metal box that's numbered, and it's a dual universe box. It's a collector's item. There's art books, tote bags, posters. Those types of things are actually going to be physical items. Oh, and the ARC ship USB key.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
So there are a number of items that are physical, but the actual ID card, that's a physical item, and DAX are digital items.
Okay.
So I threw up the video here of the character creator. And while I was perusing YouTube, I also found another treat that I don't know if... I forgot to watch this video last night, so it's new to me. I don't know if anybody else has seen the other video I'm going to put up. Of them building on an asteroid.
Yeah, I saw that one. That one was pretty interesting.
So you can see here, there's the character creator. It's pretty simple right now, but you get the general idea of what's going on. Like, it sure looks pretty. I'm not particularly somebody that cares about, getting all sorts of nitty-gritty details about your character, like, the color of their eyes and the shape of their eyebrows and all that stuff, because honestly, how much time do you spend up close to somebody else's character looking at them? But I know... Man,
I'd hate to see what I do on Fallout 4 when I make a character. And I'm the only one that sees it.
I just hit random and go.
Yeah, same here. I can't do character creators for very long. I'll do them for about 2 minutes and then lose focus on them.
Well,
so it's not
details
to say
are for
that
guys like me.
It's not to say that that's not possible, because the €650,000 stretch goal is to make a real character creator, like not real character creator, just a more detailed one where you can take off your helmet and actually see your character. So perhaps that's something that will come down the road if they don't meet that stretch goal. But it's not like a huge priority to me.
Me neither.
So there was the
most of the time
character
you're gonna have your
creator.
helmet.
I'm gonna throw up the asteroid building video here. Let's
Yes, please do. That is a brand new video to me as well.
get this much bigger for you guys.
Every time I see the engine, it's just beautiful.
My only question about this asteroid video is, so it's cool that it shows that there are going to be asteroids and that we will be able to build on them, but will they be moving? Or are they just going to be static objects in space?
Well, the planets aren't moving, if I remember correctly.
Well, the planets aren't
right?
moving. The planets rotate, but are the asteroids going to be moving? I imagine not.
Yeah, if they're not
But-
going to make the planets go on a solar cycle, then I can't imagine they would have that for asteroids.
In theory, though, if there's no technical difference between a planet and a ship, then in theory an asteroid would work the same way, and it would seem like it would be much easier to build like boosters on an asteroid and to get the asteroid moving like you would a ship than it would a planet, simply because of the size. Like, it
Yeah.
might be more convenient to just hollow out an asteroid and build rocket engines on the sides of it to propel it.
Considering the idea that I should say, consider this: it's going to matter where you place your engines, and when you create when you put a DPU in, it's going to be able to create like a basic program for like how you're supposed to, the gyros are going to interact with each other and the thrusters are going to interact with each other. I'm imagining that's going to be much more difficult when you put engines on just random surfaces like on an asteroid if it could move.
Well, it doesn't mean you can't script it, though. Wow,
True.
This is such a cool video.
Yeah.
I like the fact that this video shows that they have a way of clipping the construction through certain other materials. So like when he's building a floor, he doesn't have to sit there and go block by block around a particular piece of rock that he's decided to leave there. It will actually shape itself around or possibly through that section of rock.
Yeah, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of tools that they've put in here that are just there for convenience, but just make things so much easier overall. Like the ability to fill in a space again with the materials that I dig up.
I
That's
like that
huge.
It shows them making mistakes. I mean, clearly we know that the game is real. We know that the engine is real and it all works. But it's still cool to actually see this and see, like, this is actually them playing and building in the game. This is not just, like,
Yeah.
some pre-rendered footage.
No, I really, really like that. And that's what I liked about seeing it at PAX, was that it's real, you know, pre-rendered video, even if it made it look where they're like, no, this is totally gameplay footage, and it's not at all.
You mean like everything that Ubisoft has ever put out?
Yes, just like that.
It's very interesting to see them building in this asteroid.
Yeah, it kind of makes me want to go out and find a few asteroids to build bases on when the game comes out.
I hope that asteroids are just out in the middle of nowhere in deep space. And not just,
Yeah.
like,
A thought occurred to me. You know, when you're digging through the dirt and digging through all this stone and things like that, where do you put all this? What do you use it for afterwards, other than just like, you know, building like camouflage or a
Ideally-
bunker?
Ideally, there would be a use for it, like a way to refine it or do something with it. Although I imagine that like dirt will be in abundance, there will be materials that there is no use for. And perhaps
I mean,
you pay people to put it
from what
somewhere.
From what I've seen and from what I've heard, I think it's going to be like Minecraft, where there's just going to be some things that you have an abundance of. Like in Minecraft, no matter what I do, start to even matter, and now like I just throw it into lava to get rid of it.
Yeah, dirt, stone, like, and then later on you find like, oh crap, I had a use for all that stuff. I should have burned all that stone.
Yeah. I like how it zooms out from the asteroid at the very end of the video.
Yeah, that doesn't look terribly far from the planet.
No, all these orbital bodies are really close together only for the demo. Like when the game comes out, this is all going to be, you're not going to be able to stand on a planet and look up and see another planet. Like it's going to be pretty far away. You'll probably be able to see a moon or something, but I can't imagine you'll be able to see every planet in the sky.
Oh, hold on. You can float in space in this game? Is that what I just saw?
You have a jetpack.
Oh. Is it infinite?
I don't think so.
I imagine it might be during the alpha, but...
or enough to like propel you for building something for a minute?
Yeah, but I think that the duration probably will depend on your skill level, or perhaps the equipment. Like, so in order to build a better jetpack, you need the right skills to do it. But then you could just go buy another jetpack that like is better.
Yeah.
Or perhaps in order to use it, you also need better skills. I don't know how they're doing that skill system, but I do remember reading about the jetpack being involved. Or there was like an example of something.
They gave an example of like everything on the avatar is going to be upgradable, pretty much. Like the armor that you have, the jetpack, your sensors, so you
your
can
nanoformer.
go. Right, all of those things are going to be upgradable and somewhat necessary for certain types of people that want to, like, if I want to be a builder, my nanoformer has to be upgraded to a certain level if I want to work with certain materials, or if I want to carry a whole lot of materials. But all of those things have... Wait a second, is the asteroid moving in the video? Or is just the camera angle moving?
I think it's just the camera angle.
Oh, that would have been nice.
I think it's cool that, like, so clearly if you're on an asteroid, you can't just gather everything you need to build this base on the asteroid. So if this was the real game, they wouldn't just be able to just build this straight off the bat. Like, they'd need to start moving materials up there, shipping stuff up there to actually build this base.
Yeah.
I suppose that could be, that could, if that's their intent, yeah. I mean, in Space Engineers, you can generally find everything you need on an asteroid to build a base on an asteroid. But that was the goal of that particular game in the beginning.
Yeah.
I just suppose it depends on what they want.
I would guess probably like the most basic materials you'd be able to easily find inside of it. But decorative stuff like the gold plates he was putting on...
well, if it's procedurally generated, it could be interesting to find, like, you know, some people find asteroids that are great for that, just that purpose. We can build a base here because it's got everything we need. And then there's the asteroids. This is just a rock.
Yeah. I forgot about that, yeah. So do we know if the alpha is going to be just this engine with some optimizations for different hardware? Or is it going to be... Okay.
Unknown. I do remember reading that the hardware they're using, their developers are using, this is all running on like GTX 960s and 970s. So I know that, like, even I have the hardware right now to be able to run this game, so it's not like... It's not so bleeding edge like Star Citizen.
Is that... You know, if...
I mean, he ran it on a laptop.
Yeah. And it definitely did not look as pretty as this, but it's still, like, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he had the server and the client running on the same laptop.
Yeah. You know, I would be happy if they just gave us this for the alpha. with the ability to use.
Kind of makes me wonder what they will have for alpha. Also, speaking of alpha, the question came up during the interview yesterday when alpha would be, and JC said that he had heard some people saying February, and that was not going to happen. It was probably going to be like by the middle of the year, like the first half of the year is their goal. So my only follow-up to that would be they should come to PAX South.
No excuses, right?
Yeah, well, the excuse before was that they were going to be getting ready for alpha, but I think that they should come to PAX South now. Although if they're not fundraising at the time, then it doesn't really make sense to come to PAX South. But if they still have like a PayPal store open or something afterwards, then I don't know. I just want to see them at PAX South.
Well, PAX South has a whole different group that it caters to.
It's developers.
Yeah. And so that, I think, would be a cool place to showcase technologies and possibly find some extra talent to help out on all of the...
It would be cool to see him give a speech over like how the networking technology works. That would be cool, like a presentation on that.
Yes, I agree.
I would like
considering
to see that.
considering like Robert Space Industries is pretty much wants to invest in JC server tech. I think that could probably be a smart idea on his side of things.
Yeah, just like before PAX South started, Halo, the makers of Halo, when they were Bungie, the Halo 2, I should say, they went to the Game Developers Conference and gave a talk on their lighting engine and what they did to achieve like the crazy stuff at the time that they did, because I don't know if you ever played Halo 2, but that had some pretty advanced light and visual effects for the era that it came out in. And it was really cool to see a breakdown of how that technology was actually developed and how it worked inside the game. So I would love to see something like that from Nova Quark on like the server technology, or
it certainly would be an opportunity for them to explain how it all works in front of an audience that actually gets it.
Yeah.
And also, I think it'd be nice for them too, just to be around other game developers, because game developers know what it's like to have to deal with, constant barrages of negativity and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you go into game development, it's not only the problem of having to build the game and having to know how to do all that and the art and all of that development time, but you also have to worry about running a business, and you have to worry about like your customer or just the internet in general, just how people are going to react and treat you. I mean, there have been cases on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, look at No Man's Sky. I'm sure that Sean Murray certainly gets a lot of hate mail now. I've read that he got death threats and everything, and that's apparently just something normal you have to deal with now in game development, which I think is horseshit. I don't think there's any business you should go into where you have to deal with people doing that to you.
Yeah, I agree. It's sad that the industry and community have come to just accept that happens and that it happens in the first place.
Shitty parenting. That's what I would blame that on. Because kids don't just grow up to do that.
No, they don't.
Well, if nothing else, I'll just say that he shot himself in the foot for a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, No Man's Sky has its problems. Abundant problems.
I enjoyed the first few hours I played of it, but then...
That's what I said.
Then
like
it was the same
4 hours.
Game. Yeah, it was the same game after that, and especially when I found out how it ended, I was severely disappointed. I felt like they could have done a lot more for the ending.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to cover today? Any other questions or whatever? I know it's kind of a weird episode. It's been a weird week.
Well, I suppose that we should leave that up to Max. Do you have any other questions, Max?
No, you guys have kind of answered everything I got. I mean, with really good answers to most everything, and there's just some stuff that we don't know, and that's all right.
Somebody wants me to bring up the turrets that are in the game.
The turrets.
Yeah, like in the Asteroid video, he's placing 2 on top of their facility they've built, and
we haven't seen them work. Like
right now, they're just elements that you can place on things.
I don't even think the combat system is implemented, or like maybe health or whatever. The quote survival element of the game. When I say that, I mean like staying alive, like health and air, and etc. I don't think those are implemented yet, so that would lead me to believe that the guns don't work.
Yeah, right now it looks like it's just all, only developer mode with that unlimited access to every element. That's to me what it looks like to have, and they're trying to.
It reminds me a lot of EverQuest Landmark. I mean, it's very, very similar to EverQuest Landmark, although EverQuest Landmark has some weirdness to the way you place voxels and the way that you can craft with them. Like, you can do some really bizarre things with Landmark's voxel system, and it doesn't look like this system is the same, so...
Well, almost everything in Landmark was not... all the creation methods in Landmark, majority of them, I should say, weren't intended to work that way. They were kind of just glitches that people found, and the Landmark developers say, "Hey, yeah, we'll keep that."
And it's like glitches. Like, okay, if I stand at this corner and I place this block this way, like I can get it to look like this. Like it's just unintentional. I wouldn't say bugs, but they were unintentional, certainly. Which, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool looking stuff in Landmark. It's just kind of finicky.
Yeah, well, like I said, everything was, those things were unintentional. They decided to keep them, but when you create something when the engine works in a way that you did not intend, you can't really complain about when things don't work right.
Yeah, because it's just not working right because you didn't intend it to do the things that it's doing.
I think it's just interesting how the nanoformer that they're using for building like these facilities, when they're digging out, you select the voxel that you want, and that's how much you're removing.
You can change the size of it. When you could see that when he was building the underground space, or not space station, but base back on the planet.
Yeah, it was like
second video.
The size of the reticule was changing.
This is much better than a mining tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much better than going out with a pickaxe. I think that's what people maybe interpreted when they heard there was going to be mining in the game. Like, it's not going out there with a pickaxe. Like, it's like... I mean, we've seen the video. You're literally with a reticule, just kind of erasing ground.
Yeah. One chunk at a time. One small chunk at a time, I should say. But yeah, in the version that we saw at PAX, there's this ball that he had, and he was able to expand it or decrease it.
Do you remember the guy at PAX that sat down in front of us? Like when JC
was talking to us?
JC was talking to us, and then he said he would be right back. And so he left us there for like 2 minutes. So we're sitting there, and some kid like walks up and sits down in front of one of the demo computers and like starts placing things. And he ends up like he built this ship that was like 4 cockpits all facing in different directions. I don't know if you remember seeing this. It wasn't something that you would ever build. It was clearly something he did on accident, but it was just funny to see like this ship that was just an amalgamation of cockpits all jumbled on each other facing in different directions.
Did it work?
No. No. It didn't.
That had been interesting.
Yeah, it was a really messed up looking ship.
Kind of makes me wonder though, what happens if you have a ship with 2 cockpits on it? Which way is forward? If you have a cockpit facing in each direction, how does it determine? I guess that little sensor he showed in that building video would be the thing that determines forward. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see a lot of weird stuff. Anyways, let's see. Going over to Twitch, just answering some quick questions. There was the topic of NDAs came up earlier. And what we thought, when we thought the NDA should be lifted. Like, do you guys think it should be lifted into alpha and beta, or should it be under NDA all the way until release?
I'm interested to see if there is going to be an NDA at all.
I think there will be initially, but only temporarily until they realize that it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I
think it's necessary to have it in the alpha just because there's going to be a lot of bugs that the players will find that they only found because they did some weird stuff and, it'd be game breaking. Because you can only do so much testing and have so many test cases on software before you get out and see like real world interaction where you're like, hey, that system was never designed to do that action, so why they didn't test for it to do some crazy action? And then, the player's like, hey, what if I put like 2 cockpits on a spaceship, and then what happens then? Both of them are fighting for control and some weird conditions happen.
I think that with NovaQuark's philosophy of trying to do like an open development model, they want to be as open as everything as possible. I think that Wardia might be right that there might not even be an NDA simply because it just seems to conflict with the way that they've done everything so far.
I mean, from what I've seen from the way NovaQuark runs things, they're not afraid for people to see their stuff go, yeah, that didn't work right.
That kind of seems to be the point. Like, they want that. They want people to be able to look at it and be like, no, that's not good. Don't do that. And really, the people that I think would, I mean, if the alpha tester is paid to be into alpha, then I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. Just
I will say this much as well. To add to what you're saying, this is a voxel building game with sandbox elements for all this emergent gameplay. You're not going to be able to really complain about something. Well, this didn't build the way I wanted it to. Well, it's a building game. You're going to have to engineer this. What is it from the Martian? You're going to have to science the shit out of this.
Yeah. And we were playing Osiris New Dawn the other day, and it kind of just the feeling of exploring a new game and learning the mechanics and everything. And I know none of us have played Dual Universe, but I just got this feeling like that would be what Dual Universe is kind of going to feel like at the beginning. Like, we're just going to be dropped in the world, and for the most part, it's a free-for-all, like just learning how everything works and exploring and working with other people and having to gather stuff. Like, it'll be a slow process at first, not this like just jump in and start crafting everything. Like, it will be a really drawn out process, but just a slow process.
You mean like us meeting up initially in that game?
Yeah, like it took us like an hour to find each other in Osiris, and then it took us forever to even build a base. But Osiris is a completely different game, not really voxel.
That brings me one final question, I guess, that I have is how long is the alpha going to be?
A year.
Okay, it's a pretty good amount of time.
Because beta is supposed to start in 2018, and the game is supposed to release in December of 2018 if they meet their schedule. Games. Look, I'm not going to be the guy on the forums that complains if they push back their release date because it's a giant, massive project, and what game has not moved back the release date ever?
I can't think of one. And yeah, development is hard, and there's stuff that you have to do that takes time, and so you don't always have enough time.
Are notorious for estimating time wrong. That's why developers have to estimate. Developers should be estimating difficulty, and then based on the metrics they gather from how difficult something is versus how long it takes to do something based on a given difficulty, then you can come up with time estimates. But developers are notoriously bad for being able to say like, oh yeah, that's just going to take me 2 weeks to do or whatever. Like,
yeah,
companies find this problem that developers just aren't good at time.
I'm not entirely sure. Like, since they're using the Unity 2 engine, I'm not sure exactly how well.
No.
Unigine.
Yeah, Unigine, not Unigine.
Yes, you're correct. Yes, sorry, Unigine. I'm not. Let's see. That shows you just how familiar I am with the engine. When it comes down to it, a lot of times when they test for a game or they have certain guidelines or timelines, I should say, for how long it's going to be in a certain stage, it's because they can look at it reliably from previous testing values. So like if somebody used the Unreal Engine for a game and it took them so long to go through alpha and beta, usually you can use that as a kind of a guideline because all the developers that work with the Unreal Engine already know what the Unreal Engine can do. They know about the kind of problems that can prop up. They know how to fix those problems. I'm not sure about the same thing with the Unigine systems, engine.
But if you're starting from scratch, I mean, it doesn't matter. It takes other people. It's going to take you much longer because you have to learn the engine itself.
To give you a contrast, the people that make Warframe, Digital Extremes, they made their own engine for that game. And so a lot of times when a bug or glitch would pop up and people would complain, why is it taking you so long to fix this? It's because their honest answer was, because we don't know how to yet.
Yeah, development is hard. And for people that have never been in development or who don't work in that world, they just don't get how difficult it is. I mean, being a programmer is not just a job about programming anymore. Being a programmer is about balancing a lot of different complex systems all at the same time, of which any minor change in one of them can break everything. And on top of that, you've also got to work with teams. You got to work with people. You got to be able to write. I mean, clearly you should be able to write documentation, or at least explain to others what you're doing. And then time management. I mean, it's not an easy job being a programmer.
Especially in video games. Video game developers are pretty notorious for not having documentation on their systems.
And they burn out really quickly.
Yeah. I know when I was going through the development of Xbox One, like we had documentation, but it did not cover about 90% of the features that we used.
That's just inherent in, I guess, any large system, but in video games, it's it's a whole different paradigm. I mean, if you want to be an indie developer, you've got to manage a lot of things. Like if you were just a standalone developer, you got to do graphics, AI, networking. If you want a multiplayer game, then you have like databases, probably. You have art. You have to write the game, and then you got to program it, and then you got to market it by yourself. I mean, there's a lot. It's not easy.
And then you have to optimize and write new things for different hardware and make the game run differently so that it can run on, an older graphics card that's not the latest one out, or to run on a less powerful processor. Like that stuff takes time to do the optimization.
Well, that's why console developers are so popular in that respect. You know, you design a game and you only have to design it for one kind of engine, or maybe two, or if you're really unlucky, three.
It's convenient to be a developer to target a console because you only have one hardware platform to target. And I've heard complaints like when Sony and Xbox decided to make like version 2.0 of their next gen consoles, that developers are somewhat upset about it because now they have multiple things they need to target.
Yeah.
So, anyways, without ranting about development anymore, suffice to say it's not easy, and we should give them somewhat of the benefit of the doubt that, you know, their time frames of 2018 might not be reached, but that is just the way that development works.
You know, I'll consider alpha as a pretty easy release. There's going to be lots of stuff to work through and to get to the game where it's going to be at release, but being able to play it instead of just watching it is like a huge differentiator for me.
I mean, what's important is that they're able to get the game into the hands of people to test it.
Yeah. Testing is always the hardest part of development.
If testing takes longer than anticipated, I think that the people who backed at Kickstarter will be okay with that. At least the people who got the tiers that will allow them to test the game in alpha or beta. But I think in general it'll be okay because it'll just mean a better product in the end when the game is finally released. My estimate is I'm just being a pessimist here, but I think 2019 is first half of 2019 sounds more realistic to me. Simply just taking into account unexpected delays, anything that can go wrong between now and then.
Yeah.
I've waited longer for certain movies, so.
Or games. I'm not going to name any.
Able to actually play it soon in the alpha and beta and not just have to sit here and watch videos and drool like, man, I really wish I could play it. I don't care if it's the full game or not.
I will say this much. That is the one downside of being very transparent about your game development. Most developers start developing a game and you don't hear about that game. You know, the public doesn't hear about that game for years until it's come. Yeah, and then they forget about it. Or, when you first hear about the game, it's a few months before launch, but they've been working on the game for,
years.
2 or 3 years. Yeah. So that's the one downside of, being transparent. We're making a game. We want you to support us and talk to us about what you want and all that. It's not going to come out for the next 4 years. God damn it.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, do you guys want to wrap up this week's episode?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. Thanks for answering all my questions, guys. That's given me a lot of insight into the game, and I had fun discussing it with you guys.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Everybody watching on Twitch. We've got Landmark Explorer, Band of Outlaws, Pirate Trader, Zedavan was watching earlier. I don't know if he's still around. Amigo Creeper, RM Hen. Yeah. Anybody have anything they want to say before we sign out today?
No, I'm good.
See you Starside in the alpha.
Well said. Well said.
Cool. See you next week, everyone. We probably will shoot for Saturday, but Saturday, Sunday is going to be our general time frame. Just depends on how things go. We'll try to narrow down like a more static date. It's just that things have been a little bit wishy-washy lately. So,
yeah. All right.
Until next time.